everyone, we are talking blush today. I'm sorry if there's a little bit of music in the background, a little jazz music. Little Harper is not feeling well, he's sick. And so the only thing that seems to calm him down is a little bit of jazz music. So I do have it playing. I'm gonna try to keep it as limited as possible, but I wanted you to be aware of it in case you hear some background music. So today we are talking about the new Saint Laurent blushes, and I picked up 3 shades from Sephora. 2 satin shades, 1 matte shade. Not a huge fan of matte, but we'll get into that. And I'm going to talk about the formula. I'm going to talk about the packaging. I'm going to talk about what I think distinguishes these from some other blushes. And then I'm going to do some comparisons, actual swatch comparisons. I'm going to swatch them on my face so that you can see what they look like. And I will talk a little bit about price points and all that good stuff. The shades that I picked up were Nude Lavalliere, which is 44, and Babydoll Pink, which is 42. And then in the matte shade, I picked up Pink Voltage. There are a number of really pretty shades on the Sephora site. There are 6 currently. There's a 7th shade that doesn't seem to be in stock. It's called Spicy Berry. I'll get to why that's relevant in a moment. And most of the shades are pink. There's one shade called Peachy Nude, which is a warm terracotta, apparently, but it's matte. Pink Voltage, which I picked up, is a cool, vibrant pink matte. Peachy Nude, warm terracotta matte. Babydoll Pink, cool baby pink satin, which I have. Then Nude Lavalliere, iconic dusty pink satin, which I have. Berry Bang, a pink raspberry matte. Spicy Berry, which is a deep plum satin. Shade Restless Rose, a peachy pink satin. Now, those are 7 shades. Like I said, 6 are available. I'm in the US, so we're just talking about the US for a second. The shade Spicy Berry, which is a deep plum shade, shows as not in stock. It does not exist on the international site for Saint Laurent. However, on the international site for Saint Laurent, there are 11 shades. The shades that are missing from the US site, again, this is just what I can purchase here in the US. So, depending on where you are, you'll have a different experience. But this is the international site for Saint Laurent. Coral Clash, which looks to be a coral. Lavender Lust, which looks to be a very light, very, very light lavender. Nocturnal Nude, 12, which looks to be a very light nude. Suave Sunstone, which looks to be I would say, a very, very light tan shade. Rose Haze, which looks absolutely beautiful, which is a light rose. My understanding is that these are going to be parts of their core collection and that all of these shades, at least on the international site, are going to be available. However, it is my understanding from things that I've heard from various essays and then just putting 2 and 2 together, frankly, and doing some thought, Saint Laurent had some issues with their liquid blushes when it came to that lavender shade, that very, very light lavender shade, and how the other shades really didn't account for a large spectrum of skin tones. And so I think Saint Laurent is testing different shades in different markets. And in the United States, they did not come out with the lightest of shades. Hopefully yet. I haven't gotten confirmation of that, like that we'll eventually get them. But it would make some sense since it's on the international site that they have all these 11 shades. The fact that there's another shade, a 12th shade, on the Sephora site that says not in stock, that's a very, very deep plummy shade, I don't know what that means. I haven't gotten any confirmation or any comment on that at all. So the shades that I picked were shades that I thought could work on me, but I will tell you right now that these are pigmented blushes, which is a good thing. You want your blushes to be pigmented so that a wide spectrum of people can use it. However, for me, I feel like they are all actually a little too pigmented. And I would really like to have the Nocturnal Nude, the Lavender Lust, the Suave Sunstone, the Rose Haze, and the Coral Clash. I think those would all be fantastic for me, but I can't try them right now. I'm going to try to pick them up overseas. We'll see how that goes, and I'll keep you up to date. But the reason I actually am interested in trying to track them down before they come to the United States, if they do come to the United States, is because of the formula of these. These are, as I said in my thumbnail title, the closest I've seen to the old Chanel. Do they surpass or do they meet the expectations of the old Chanel? That's too early for me to say because I've been using the old Chanels for, 30 years. It would be unfair of me to suddenly say, oh yes, this is the same. I mean, like that, I need to test these a lot longer and use them a lot longer in a lot of different brushes and a lot of different, foundations, etc. But I can say off the bat that these are special blushes. I do really like the formula more than I've liked practically any other formula that I've seen. Has a way of blurring that is very impressive. And although it didn't say it specifically on the international site, it says coated couture pigment technology. It gives instant, and this is for the particular color I picked out, pink color crush for 24 hours a day, long, fresh, blushed complexion, ultra buildable, sheer to super bold shades, true color payoff. And then it says, which I feel is really interesting, it's infused with squalene, which makes it more comfortable for the skin. Make Me Blush blurs the looks of imperfections and pores. This is for the matte shade. Skin looks mattified and feels soft throughout the day. So that's all great, all good. But then it says 11 skin adaptable shades. What that says to me is this is a pH active, interactive formula, which means that depending on your skin, it's gonna change a little bit. I have had that experience trying these blushes. So I've been using these blushes for a couple of days. I didn't want to just do a video just showing you the blushes because I think these are a little more, I think there's a little more here than just an average blush. So they do adapt to your skin tone. Not so much that, it's going to be a whole different color, but it does change a little bit. So depending on who's wearing it, you're going to get a different color. And even using your fingers to swatch might change will change the color, at least from what I'm getting, a little bit. So different people, when they swatch and you look at the videos or pictures, it's going to look a little different, which I think is going to be kind of problematic in a way, but also good to know. I'd also say the colors on the site, that is not what these look like. These do not look like what's online, which happens all the time. I'm really hoping they're at my local Sephora very soon so that I can at least see them in person. At the moment, they're not. I'm just looking at the website. They say out of stock at every Sephora near me, and I'm not that far from Boston, so I can't believe that they're not, so I'm guessing they're just not in stores yet. I really hope I can get the lighter shades overseas and try those out, but in the meantime, we're gonna test these and I'll show you these colors. If you are of a similar skin tone to mine, you will notice that when I swatch them, they're gonna look a heck of a lot darker than when I apply them to my face, because when I apply them to my face, I'm gonna use a very wispy Wayne Goss brush. So let's start with the matte. This is number 87. It is pink voltage. You'll see the packaging. The packaging is very lush, very luxury, exactly what we've been asking for from practically every brand. And it follows along with the couture clutches that slip of the tongue there, that Saint Laurent has adapted for all of its products. And you have the mini couture clutches for their eyeshadows and their bronzers and their highlighters that are supposedly coming very soon. I think Saint Laurent has done, again, this is my opinion and I've mentioned it before, one of the best jobs of any of the brands in creating something that is luxurious, but also a reasonable price point. These blushes are $45. The Hermes, for example, is I think 110 or it's 100. I can't remember off the top of my head, but the point is it's like $100. It's a really nice blush. I really like it. I'm going to compare it today, but 110 versus 45. Now, there's probably more in the compact, but still, how much blush are you really using? These have 0.21 ounces, 6 grams, and I can't say enough about the packaging. You'll see the up close, but I do think it's substantial and it looks beautiful. And for the price point, I mean, yeah, there's no fragrance that I can find in these. I will also say there is talc. There's talc in all of them. I'm going to give you a close-up of the side of the box. This is for the matte. Okay, just keep that in mind because there is a difference between the matte formula and the satin formulas. Just trying to get an angle that you can actually see it because there we go. We've talked about the formula. We have talked about the shades and the issues with the shades. We've talked about the ingredients. The satins have mica as the second ingredient, as the matte has something else. You saw it on the side. So for the satin ones, it's talc and mica. And for the matte ones, it's talc and titanium dioxide, but then zinc stearate is the second. Third is the longevity of these things. They are labeled as 24 months, which is much longer than practically any blush that I now get. A lot of this has to do with the clean beauty initiatives that are out there. I have differing opinions on that, but I'm not going to go into that in this video. But what I would say to you is that my old blushes, my old Chanel blushes, are very old, okay? I mean, I'm not, again, don't do what I do, but they're very old. These are testers when I, used to work at Chanel 30 years ago. I have blushes though that I do keep regularly that are 5, 6, 7 years old. They're fine. They're absolutely fine. And again, not telling you to keep them that long, but I would say by the feel of these and the ingredients in these that you could definitely keep them for 2 years and not be concerned because it says so on the packaging. I will probably keep them much longer than that, but you get my gist. When something says 6 months on it, the chances of it lasting 5 years is much smaller. So the packaging is excellent. The formula is excellent. There's matte and there's satin for people who want. There's blurring technology. There's a pH adaptive something in here that sort of changes to what your skin tone is. The price point is reasonable and it seems to last longer than a lot of blushes. You see where I'm going with my thoughts. Okay, so here's the matte. 87. And like I said, I don't have all the shades. I have 3. There are 6 currently on the Sephora site anyway. That is one, I'm just blending, one swatch. See what I mean? How pigmented? They're very, very pigmented. If you're somebody who's concerned about, like, you want a stronger blush, you want a more impactful blush, and you feel like a lot of the blushes have been substandard, you're not gonna have a problem with this one. Next is the one that I think is going to be very popular. It's Babydoll Pink. This is number 42, and it is a satin. Again, this is very strong. And this is Nude Lavaliere, which is not nude, it's pink. It on site as a dusty pink satin. I think that's actually not a bad description. It's just the name is deceptive. It is my favorite shade of the 3 that I bought, but again, it is deep for me. All of them are deep for me. Now we're going to leave those there and we're going to talk a little bit about some comparisons. This is the Dior Backstage in pink. Now this is the old formula. This is not the new formula. But the new formula is good. It's not as good in my opinion as this one, but it's good. And I feel like it looks a heck of a lot better on the skin than it does actually in a swatch. So this might actually be okay. I think it's very similar to the shade. We're gonna look, but I think it's very similar to the Babydoll Pink that, yeah. It's almost identical actually. And it is very similar to the old formula of the Dior Backstage. The Dior Backstage Pink is a little pinker. This is a little bit lighter, but maybe you'll notice the shades are starting to change a little bit on my face. So on you, it might look exactly like the Dior, but again, it's starting to shift a little bit. Next is an old Hermes, the original Hermes. This is satin. This is Rose Ombre. This is one of my favorite shades. I'm not going to compare it to the shades here because it's a very different shade, but I am going to put it on this side of my face so you can see the formula. The formula of this, you can see this is a satin. Do you see how it looks a lot drier than these? And again, I like this formula from Hermes. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. But you can see it shows more texture than these do, even the matte. Isn't that interesting? All right, here's the Dolce & Gabbana. This is the new Dolce & Gabbana. And this is the mauve. I'm gonna show you an old Dolce & Gabbana in a second. I actually really like the new ones from Dolce, but can you see again? It looks drier. Now again, the pigments are good though. I mean, in both of those, I think the pigments are good. But just get an idea of like how these look on the skin. Now here's old Dolce & Gabbana. This is an old pink and white highlighter and blush, one of my favorites. And actually, I recently have received some things from some of you out there, some of my like amazing subscribers. All of you are amazing, but you guys sent me some things and I'm going to be doing a video on really soon, basically a shop my stash kind of thing, talking about that. And one of them, some of the products were from Dolce, so I have a lot of thank yous to give out. But this shade, the pink one from Dolce, was one of my favorites. Now it's very luminescent, you can see that, but it is a similar tone to this Babydoll pink that you get, but this one has more luminosity to it. It has more, it's luminosity. That's really what it is. It's not a satin, it's a luminous shade. It's not shimmery though. The old Dolces in these blush duos, there's a blush and then there's a highlighter in here. These were called illuminating powder duos. You can see that it's got this luminosity to it that's quite beautiful, but it is a little bit more unforgiving for skin. All illuminators are, just by the nature of the product. If something is illuminating, it's going to illuminate. So you're gonna see a little more texture, even if the best highlighters that are out there or the best illuminating blushes. However, this one is the least problematic that I have in this kind of formula. But you can see that there's a little more texture to this than there is to this. And this still has some luminosity to it. Again, it's a satin, so it's different. Now, I was looking for a shade that I had in the old Chanel blushes that's like a bright, bright pink, and I don't have one. Probably because it's just not my thing. But Rose Ecrin, I've gotten questions that this is like a shade that everybody really likes, and was there anything similar to it? I have never found a shade that's exactly like it. I'm still looking. But you'll see when I put Rose Ecrin on that it has a very different look. And I'm gonna put 2 swatches of this on. The others I had 1, and I'll show you why in a minute. This shade is a really good rosy, it's a little bit of mushroom in it. You notice how this looks smoother than these two? Like you don't see the texture as much in this one as you see in this. And the bottom of the swatch is basically the same as the top of the swatch. It's a very unusual formula. And I'm gonna put it over here as well next to these two. And what you're gonna see is that although it has to be built up more, because that was the thing about Chanel, you could have it be very sheer, which to me, I really like. These, although they say they're sheer, on someone as pale as me, they're not really sheer. Can you see, although this is less luminous than these satins, how the smoothness is there, even close to my lip where I have more lines? That's something that is difficult to find in a blush, on especially more mature skin, or if you have acne, if you have lines, if you have scars, any of those things. Powders can go into crevices because it's powder. If you have a coated technology that can kind of skim or even fill in and blur, I think that's what this is doing in these new Saint Laurents. And then again, the pH adaptiveness, which I find really interesting. I would say though, the Rose Ecrin is close, just close, to the Nude Lavalliere on me. Can you see how this Nude Lavalliere has changed color a little bit and how these shades look less intense? I'm not saying they're suddenly a different color, but they're slightly different. And Nude Lavalliere and Rose Ecrin are similar tones. The Saint Laurent is more luminous than the Chanel, but I would say if you really love Rose Ecrin, Nude Lavalliere is going to be a good choice for you. Again, I still haven't found an exact dupe. I've been looking. I've been looking. But it's similar. I'm going to pull out the Hermes, the new one. Take a look at that. You know what they say about the best laid plans. You'll probably notice there's no swatches on my face. Every time I record, I always check my footage before, like, let's say I'm recording a bunch of videos for a day and then I'm not going to edit until later because I don't always do it all at once. And so I always check the footage just to make sure everything worked. Well, today it didn't. So the second half of the video I'm now recording again. So you'll notice there's nothing on my face. And I apologize for that, but I can't really recreate that now. But what I will do is put one of the Saint Laurent blushes on again. This is the Nude Lavalliere, and show you next to the Hermes and the RMS blush, which is what I did in the video footage that is now gone. So this is the new Hermes. This is the Rose Hail, and I'm putting all the colors together and swatching. And I will show you that, first of all, next to even the Nude Lavalliere, which is the most neutral shade of the ones I picked up, it's the least pink actually. You notice how much peachier the Rose Hail looks next to that. So the Saint Laurent blushes, at least the ones that I have, are all very pink leaning. You also can notice that the Hermes is more luminous, and I don't think it blends as well into the skin. I mentioned in that video that this was a little too strong for me, so you can see that the Saint Laurent also is. And I've mentioned, like, I love the Saint Laurent formula, but all these shades are a little deep for me. I really, again, hope that I'll get to see the lighter shades. RMS, this is in French Rose, and I thought this would be a good one to swatch against because I feel like of the formulas that now exist on the market, RMS is probably the closest to these Saint Laurents. It is more luminous, though, than the Saint Laurents. It doesn't have, as far as I know, the pH adaptive technology. It doesn't blur like the Saint Laurents do, but it has a luminescence that's not too strong. It doesn't look dry. It goes on really well. It's easy to use. They have a lot of beautiful shades. I think the RMS is a really excellent blush if you like a luminous blush. The difference, of course, with the Saint Laurent is there's a matte and a satin, and the satins aren't really luminous, they're satin. So I think it will work for pretty much anyone. And I also think the Saint Laurents they're different. They're the technology that's in there. Again, I have to spend more time with them, but I think they're unique. So the only formula that I think is similar on the market today that I have is the RMS. There's a bunch of formulas that I think are now gone, that, like the Chanel, that are similar. But now, can you see how this color has changed since I first put it on my skin? It's lighter. It's adapted to my skin. It's really interesting. Like I said, it's not drastic, but it is different. And it looks most like Rose Acrène, the Chanel, than practically anything else I have at the moment. Anyway, the Hermes is very nice, but it is more luminous, and I think it shows texture a little bit more. The RMS, you notice it started to blend a little bit more into the skin and is actually quite pretty, but it does have more luminosity than the Saint Laurent. It doesn't have the same blurring and the same pH adaptiveness that the Saint Laurents do, but it's similar. Okay, I'm gonna take this off and I'm going to again show you how I apply the Saint Laurent blushes. And while I let that dry down a little bit, if you decide to take any life advice from me at all, and you know, why should you? And by the way, if you don't know who I am and you've never watched before, hi, my name is Jennifer. I was a makeup artist for Chanel half a lifetime ago. Here on my channel, I do all things luxury. I try to post 3 times a week. I'd love it if you would go down below and hit the subscribe button, become part of the family, and hit the notification button so that you don't miss anything. I have been working in policy. I'm an attorney, a licensed attorney, and I've been working in advocacy for the last 30 years of my life, and recently gave that up for various reasons. I have a video about it. And the one thing that I will tell you about life that we all share absolutely in common is there are gonna be times where things do not go your way, like half your footage is missing. The more you learn to just laugh at things like that and just roll with it, the better off you will be, because nothing ever is perfect and nothing in my life has ever completely gone to plan. It just doesn't. Life, you know, has a way of throwing things at you. So the more you learn to roll with things and just look at it as an opportunity to do something better, the happier you will be. Trust me on this one. Okay, let's get into the blushes. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to use the Wayne Goss. This is the F5. This is the very fluffy, like, diffuser brush. You can see it's already got the pigment from the shades that I used earlier. It is clean. I've wiped it off on a microfiber towel, but it was actually washed before I used it so that you could see it all white and how pigmented this would be. But anyway, that's done. So I'm gonna use the lightest shade first. This is the Babydoll Pink. And this works really well if I use a very diffused brush as like a highlighter on me, almost. Because this is the satin and it has a luminosity to it that is very light. It is not like the Hermes or the RMS. It is just a satiny. It gives a very light, very diffused luminosity that reminds me of the Chanel blushes of old that had luminosity to it. The Chanel blushes of old, like the one that I pulled out, the Rose Ecrin, they weren't really labeled satin matte. Like, they didn't really do that back in the day. I mean, they're old. We're talking like 30 years, some 20 years. They were more just like, this is the color. It either had some satin to it, or it had luminosity to it, or it had shimmer to it, or it had matte to it, or it didn't. And that was kind of it. But there were ones, and I have them, that have more luminosity to it than others. And those I always used with a very light hand as almost a, you know, a highlighter on me. And I did it a lot because I didn't really want to use a lot of blush. I've always been that way because of the fact that I have rosacea. So I have used this technique for a long time, where I take I didn't have this brush before. I love this one. I used other brushes, but where you get a very light, luminous look that almost looks like a highlighting blush. And that's what I get when I use this. This Babydoll color is, in my opinion, the best of the ones. There may be another one I haven't, maybe the coral one, I don't know, but the best of the ones for a very fair skin tone if you're looking for a look like this. If you use a brush like the Soft Cheek Brush from Sonia G, you're gonna get a look that looks much more like the way I swatched it on my face earlier. Much more intense, much more pigmented, which if you like that look, you know, go for it. Or if you have a deeper skin tone, obviously. But for me, I like to use this in this manner. And honestly, there's a lot of times that I would just let it go at this and I wouldn't put any blush on. I'd probably use a little bit of bronzer just to warm up my face a little bit, but that would be it. Because I like this kind of light look. I am not somebody who does a very strong blush look. However, if you are, use a denser brush. Now, this is the matte shade. I'm gonna use this almost like the way we used it back in the 80s, which was to contour, because it really wasn't contour. We all did it, but we just didn't call it that. I'm gonna use the Soft Cheek Brush. I'm gonna go in super light. And when I say super light, that's it. It's like, brush it across. It's super pigmented. Seriously, guys. And I'm gonna sort of stamp here, like super lightly. You can see like how lightly I'm doing this to give myself like this little bit of contour on my face with blush. And then I'm gonna go over it with that Wayne Goss. And so I'm just stamping. And this is called draping now. It was something we always did, but it's draping. Basically, it's how we used to like contour when we didn't have contour. And then you take the Wayne Goss brush or something like it. Just, you know, this is a great brush. I don't know if this is still available. I don't think these were limited edition. Just kind of, you know, going over that to soften it because it's a little bit of a harsher line. Beautiful. Stunning. But again, if you use this with a denser brush, you're gonna get a heck of a lot more pigment. I can tell you, I promise you, people with medium to deep skin tones, you're gonna be fine with these blushes. Again, it will depend on like your undertones, which kind of shades you want, but they're all very pigmented and they'll show up. Okay, Nude Lavalliere, which is actually my favorite shade. as a blush. I think this looks very pretty, but it's very pink, and I'm not really a very pink person. But the Nude Lavalliere is rose, I would say, and it does have a little bit of that neutral undertone. Not a ton, it's still pink. But again, these do color adjust on your face. So we're gonna go in with the Wayne Goss brush again. I'm going to tap it off. And I'm gonna start with a little bit on my nose. Do you see how like instantly, like though, it's just like, okay, I gotta blend it in a little bit because it's like too much, too much. All right, and I'm gonna kind of go up in here, again, sort of that draping, contouring thing. And then I'm gonna start putting a little bit more over, and I'm gonna do a look that I generally don't do, but this is to show you the colors, okay? There's a way you can put on blush that kind of looks like a W. And basically what you do, sweep it like this. Now I'm gonna do a very light sweeping because I don't really like, because of the rosacea, I don't really like to, you know, have more pink on my face than I need to. But I want to show you how this can be a very pretty look. It kind of looks like you were wearing sunglasses and you're out in the sun, you got a little bit of like a sunburn kind of thing. That's the idea anyway. And it can look very nice if it's done well. If it's not done well, I don't love it. But anyway, but I just want you to see how pretty this shade is and how well this just sort of blends into the skin and the luminosity that you get. But the matte also blends perfectly and just sinks right into the skin and looks stunning. One, the packaging is, I think, luxurious, beautiful, well done, hefty, right where we want it to be. Price point, very reasonable for a luxury good, and I think, honestly, Saint Laurent has recognized that you can have luxury and not a $110 price point like Hermes. 3, the formula is unique, special, and I really love the fact that they've got this sort of pH technology and the blurring effect. I think everybody wants that. I mean, at least a good pH effect, not a everything turns pink. 4, sorry, I was just thinking about the lip stuff. 4, the 24-month shelf life is huge. Yeah, these have talc on them. If that is something that's a no for you, totally understand. For me, I'm okay with it, and I love the fact that these are going to last 2 years at a minimum. For me, that means a lot because I have a lot of makeup and things that I spend a lot of money on and I have to throw away. It's a huge waste. So I really, really love that. The last point, of course, is the shade issue. And I only call it an issue because I really want the light shades and I can't get them in the United States. And the fact that the deepest shade that is available on the Sephora site in the United States doesn't seem to be available internationally. Or maybe it is and I just haven't seen it yet. But it's not even available on the Sephora site. There's a big excerpt saying it's out of stock. So I'm a little confused about the shades. I'm gonna do my best to get those light shades one way or another because I love this formula and I'm afraid it's like the Chanel, it's gonna go away or something. I understand these to be part of the core, collection, but I loved the Suku blushes and then they were gone. And to that point, the Suku blushes have a similar feel and the blurring blushes, the melting blushes that they had. And I feel like those would be, they weren't exactly like the Chanel's, but they were the closest to the Chanel's that I had found. They no longer exist, so that's why I'm not comparing them today. I'm comparing the Chanel because frankly, the Chanel's the pinnacle. I'd show you the Suku ones if you could buy them, but I just don't feel like I'm gonna show them to you and you're gonna be like, great, Jen, I can't get them anymore. But the Chanel's I'm showing you because that's the broadest compare I can come up with because most people know that the Chanel blushes of old were like the pinnacle. So again, I would say the closest I have is probably, that's currently available, probably the Saint Laurents are similar most to the RMS, but the RMSs don't have the same blurring and they're a little bit more voluminous. These I think are special. I think they're worth picking up. Definitely put them in your cart for when they go on sale, or if you really need blush now, buy them now. If I had a deeper skin tone, I would buy all 6 of them. I do not, so I'm gonna try to find the lighter ones. If I get them, I will certainly let you know and show you how they look. And again, I showed you some techniques about how to use them if you are somebody who has paler skin or you just want a lighter look. But these are the ones when I say things like the Lisa Eldridge Enhancing Tint, where I was like, go buy it. Or the Dolce & Gabbana Solar Glow Powder, and I was like, go buy it. It's limited edition. I don't believe these are limited edition, which is why I'm not urging everyone to go out and get them now. If I find out that they are for some reason, I'll let you know. But my understanding is that they're part of the core. So I think we're all good. Nobody needs to run out. But if you are in need of blush and you like one of these shades, I would definitely pick one up because I really think they're excellent. Yeah, so I will continue to do more with them, obviously, play around with them, show you different shades, show you them with different brushes, all that good stuff. And I'll have more in the coming months, but I'm far more impressed than I thought I was going to be. Not because I don't like Saint Laurent. I love everything Saint Laurent's come out with, actually. I am now at the point where I'm cautiously optimistic about things. I'm no longer like expecting things to be great, which is kind of sad, but you know, a lot of the formulas have come out that they're like, oh, it's the best thing ever. And I'm like, meh, it's okay. But these really held up to the hype, in my opinion. So again, I'll have more soon. So thanks so much for joining me today, guys. I really do appreciate it. And I hope to see you in another video really soon.